Not only is it based to call an autistic child slurs, but it's also encouraged. So next time you see a disabled kid, you grab him by his little disabled neck, you put your finger in his face, call him a handful of slurs, and you'll be cashing in a $500,000 check, and you'll start floating in the water like an otter. If you have not been paying attention, Twitter, Instagram, the interwebs, it's all on fire because some chick named Shiloh was at a park, called an autistic kid a handful of slurs in front of everybody. This man then confronted her. And when he was confronting her with his camera, she doubled down, tripled down, and quadrupled down. And now it's coming out this guy has a very shady past, which there's a lot of misinformation out there. Hopefully I can clear the air on some of this, or at least give proper context to what's went down. So with that being said, let's start off this story. It started off on a beautiful sunny day, right? It was a gorgeous day at the park. And this woman was there with her baby. Now, her baby, she says, is 18 months old, which that pisses me off. Right off the jump, that absolutely boils my balls and it singes my ass. Why do people keep doing that? 18 months old, 26 months old, 38 months old. The baby's a year and a half, okay? It's a year and a half old. 12 months, 6 months, add them together, that's a year and a half, okay? Year and a half old baby, she's sitting there, so of course she has a diaper bag because he keeps pooping and cacaing on himself. So she needs a diaper bag. Now when this happened, she was at the park and this other kid who was about 5 years old, which I gotta be honest, yo, if you see that video, that kid there's no way he's 5 years old. Now obviously I don't know the validity behind that, but at the end of the day, you look at that video, that was a big ass 5-year-old. I'm this kid was like 5 feet tall. You know, I have little cousins that are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. He looked more like he was 9 to 10, but it's still a kid nonetheless. So this 5-year-old, allegedly, right, with autism starts going through her bag. Now, of course, she is not gonna know he has autism, but still doesn't justify what she did. He takes something, he starts running around, I guess, she catches him. Now, as an adult, what does she do? Does she say, hey, why'd you take that? I wanted it. It's not nice to steal from other people. Would you like it if someone stole from you? Is that what she does? No, the way she reprimands him is by saying, give me that! You stupid little... calling him slurs, man. Like hitting with the good ones. And it's like, whoa! And according to the cameraman, all the kids at the park, they were sitting there frightened. They were scared. They couldn't enjoy their ants on a log celery sticks. They were losing it. All the gushers and gummies were done. All the little Scooby snacks were broken. Everybody was losing it. So this man, he stands up. He pulls out his phone. And he's a community leader. I'm gonna go on to a little bit more. He takes his phone out and starts confronting it. Now I gotta say this much. I did not know this was a dialogue option. This was actually insane. So when he confronts her and he's like, hey, did you just call this kid a whole bunch of slurs? She responds with this. Blah, 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 blah. I kid you the fuck not. That blew my brain out. I could not believe I saw someone, somebody, oh my gosh. I don't know. It's not even like, it's just crazy, right? It's like, I just did not think that would be a response that anybody would have, but she does it, and it gives him the dirty bird. Now, after that, she then doubles down, triples down, quadruples down, says, yeah, I did it. Yeah, I'm just calling it for what I see. Because of this, she now has over $500,000 raised on a fundraiser page. So there's that. And now, on top of that, some details came out about this guy. Now, people are saying that he was convicted of doing some nasty things with an underage girl. He was not convicted, he was charged. That doesn't make it any better. That does not make it any better. Let me clarify, that does not make it any better. So, here's what happened. He was not convicted. He was charged. There's a difference. Convicted means you were found guilty, you did time in prison, and, it's 10, 20 years or whatever. But he was charged. That means, it was said that he did it, going to court, blah, blah, blah. And that was back in 2023. The guy was in his late 20s. The girl was said to be around 16 years old. Now, I'm getting this from abc4.com. So if there's any details wrong, you can blame those people. Again, I'm just showing. And I went on a couple of other websites, and they all seem to kind of match up. So essentially, this is what happened. This girl, who was around 16, she ran from a foster home, according to ABC4. When she ran from this foster home, she told the police that this man and his friend had... I hate to do this. I really grapefruited her, right? Grapefruit, right? Because YouTube. But yeah, they did things to her. And then he was charged with this in 2023. And by 2025, that being this year, March, about a month ago, he was dismissed. The case was dismissed. There was no hearing. it was dismissed because it was like in the seeking of justice, aka there wasn't enough of evidence, or it was just the source wasn't reliable enough, something along those lines. Again, that's just paraphrasing. At the end of the day, it was dismissed. Now, I'm gonna be honest. Okay, this is my opinion. I still got a couple of questions. How does he know this girl? How does a man who's 28, 29 years old know this 16? How does he know her? You know what I'm saying? Are you a relative? I doubt it. And she ran from a foster home, so do you work in foster care? That's my genuine question, right? If you're 29, 28 years old and you're alone with a 16-year-old girl that you're not related to, that shit in itself that should spark some fucking questions. How do you know this girl? Do you work at that foster home? So I still got questions there. I tried to look into this. I couldn't find nothing. That's all that's being stated right now. So with that being said, just to clear the air, he was not convicted. He was charged. Case dismissed. But that shit is still shady as fuck. Now, here's my opinion on the situation. I got a couple of things to get off my chest. First thing first, I gotta say this. This may blow your mind. I don't think you should reprimand the child by calling him a whole bunch of slurs to his face. I don't think you should sit there and absolutely destroy you shouldn't clobber a kid, yo. You shouldn't clobber a kid verbally. And in my opinion, a kid who's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, to me, those are the years in which what's being said to them can really have an impact on their future as they go into a teenager and a teenager into a young adult. And it can have a huge impact, again, on their entire life and the way they see things in their own perspective. Because if you embed negative thoughts into them, I think that can give them insecurities and a lack of confidence in their own abilities, thus leading them down a path to be less successful than the average individual. That's my opinion. So if you agree with me, you agree with me. If you disagree with me, then you disagree with me. Let me know in the comment section down below. So going and approaching a child, someone that you're not even related to either, and to say the things he did, that's obviously unacceptable on all regards. There's no justification for that. And of course, there's going to be a whole bunch of people who are, being edgy online, like, just to troll and just to add sticks to the flames. But at the end of the day, I'm going to ask this much. If that was your child and some woman did that to your kid, there's no way anybody would find that acceptable, which is going to segue into my next point, that if she got busted in her mouth for the things she said, what would you say, I think it'd be completely acceptable, because there's no way in hell I'm going to let somebody talk to my child like that. If my child, 5 years old with autism, and she doesn't know that he has autism, but still, that's no way you talk to a 5-year-old where you're going to be cursing out a 5-year-old and calling the kid, that's no way. You want to call him a little punk? Fine. You want to call him a little punk ass? Okay, there you go. A little jackass. I mean, you can go on the softer side, but and you're cursing him out and calling him slur after saying, like, nah, dog. That's way too much, especially that's not your kid, so you've crossed the line on so many degrees. So if she got busted in her mouth, that's just what have happened. Now, at the end of the day, I do want to go into this next point that I wanted to make. I'm tired of this idea of freedom of speech being pushed to such a degree where people then think it should encroach on other people. What I mean by this is exactly this situation. Yes, you have the freedom to say what you want and, do with that. But at what point are you encroaching on another person? Where if you're going to get in someone's face and you're cursing out their child and you're calling their child slurs, at what point do you need to be reprimanded? And I don't think a verbal reprimandation should be in effect. Again, if you do that to my child, you're going to get busted in the fucking mouth. And if you say, why'd I get hit in the mouth? Well, you shouldn't get into someone's child's face and curse them out and call them a whole bunch of slurs. So this idea where you're going to hold freedom of speech above your head and scream freedom of speech, that's true. You do have freedom of speech, but you cannot tell me you're so naive that you believe that you have freedom of speech to the degree where you have freedom from consequence. Okay? You're not going to have freedom of consequence. And you can go ahead and argue the idea of, hey, if you hit me, that's illegal. Well, if people cared about the laws, then criminals would not exist. So don't be so naive. Yes, you can curse and you can scream your head off and you can get in someone's face in public and do all that shit. But when you get stabbed or punched or fucked up, then you're going to learn. Treat other people with respect. There's going to be people just as dumb as you and other people who are dumber than you are, right? Again, as someone who grew up in New York, I've seen people fight at a train station for stepping on someone's sneakers. And people will fucking fight because you breathe a little too loud. Let alone you get in someone's child's face and you start cursing them out. If don't be surprised when you get fucking stabbed for some shit like that. That is a real possibility. So this idea where you want to triumph and fucking, stump around, freedom of speech, freedom of speech, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. Yo, you got that right. Yo, it's just like, you know how people have the right to protest? You have the right to protest. You do. But when you're going to stand in the street with a whole bunch of signs and shut down a road, when you get ran the fuck over, that's your fault, okay? You have the right to protest. But if you're going to stand in the middle of the street and lock arms and shut down the highway when you get ran the fuck over, that's going to be your fault, okay? So you may have freedom of speech. You may have that right. But when you get in someone's face and you start doing shit like that, when you get busted in your mouth, you get stabbed on and all that other stuff, that is your fault, okay? So your freedom only goes as far as your contemporaries will allow it to. And I think that's a very fair point to make. So be very wary of what you say to other individuals and how you treat another person's child in public. Now, again, I'm not wishing this woman any harm. That's not what I'm doing. And I gotta clarify that before some fucking Jonas brother in the comment section is like, you're wishing this woman harm. No, I'm not. I'm not wishing this woman harm. What I am saying is what she did was incredibly incorrect. And you should not do what she did. Because if you do what she did, you might end up putting yourself in harm's way. Because there might be someone stupid enough or someone who gets angry enough to do something about it. So why would you blatantly disrespect other people in public and blatantly disrespect another person's child? Because no one watching this video would allow a stranger to talk to their child in that manner. And if you say that you will allow a fucking grown person to get in your child's face, confront, intimidate, and verbally assault your kid, then you're just a coward. Okay? You're a fucking coward and you have no balls. Yeah, go ahead. Rip my kid a new one. Yeah, talk shit to my kid. Yeah. Oh, my kid's crying. Yeah, toughen up. Come on, keep cursing. Put your hand in his face. Oh, no, not on my watch. Not for me. Not happening. There's no way. There's no way. There is no way someone was going to be able to die on that hill. All right? So with that being said, genuinely an insane case all around. The chick is out of her mind, for one. For two, what was that dude? I think I'm dead ass. I gotta be honest. As much as I don't like what she did, I think there's more answers leaning towards him. I think everybody should be more curious about the guy. I'm gonna be honest. I think everybody should be more curious about him, especially when you got that type of track record. And again, there's nothing I can find online about it. And you're at a park. Now, he was at the park allegedly with his kids, as some sources stated. I don't know the validity behind that. But, dude, you got a hell of a case. You know what I'm saying? Again, charges were dismissed, but I still want more answers on how do you know that girl? Why were you out alone with her if you were? Do you work at that foster home? What's up with that? So, I think that, to me, is the stuff we gotta be asking more questions about that, especially when this guy's gonna be going to fucking parks. So with that being said, I'm your boy Cold Raven. I'ma catch y'all later. Tama! Peace.